Hey everyone, good morning. Just a few things that are on my mind. Hey everyone, I just want to call your attention to the disclaimer today. This is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not investment advice. We are not registered investment advisors. You are solely responsible for the applicable trading and investment decisions that you make. Thank you. Market's pretty strong again this morning. A little pop, a little hesitant into some of the data that we're going to talk about in a moment, but Tesla with a little dip and then some follow through there, which I like. We put on a risk reversal in the community. I'm liking upside. I think it kind of tries to head towards 300. Trump is positive for Tesla, I think for Elon. But generally speaking, I think the polls are not, clear cut. So we could talk about that in a moment. So this week we've got a lot of data. I mean, we'll talk about massive earnings. It's the Super Bowl for earnings. We've got massive amounts of data coming out. It could be very, very impactful to what Powell wants to do next, which of course is next week. So we've got FOMC, we've got the election. I mean, this is unbelievable in terms of how much we've got going on this week. So I don't know if that paralyzes markets a little bit because they don't know which way to go. But those first couple earnings are going to be really, really big. So we've got, in terms of importance here, consumer confidence tomorrow. Then we've got GDP. We've got on October 31st on Halloween, we've got some more jobs, initial claims, continuing claims. We've got personal income, PCE prices, which the Fed loves. Big stuff coming up. And then of course the big one, non-farm payrolls as well. So, the Fed said they're not interested in inflation so much. It's conquered. I've been saying that's a load of hogwash. Now they're worried about inflation. They're worried about jobs. They're worried about everything again, in my view, which is part of the reason rates fall is sky high and it's bleeding into the VIX and everything else, not to mention all these event situations. So let's take a look at the polls here. We've got on the Predict It, which is, they say these are very valuable to watch because this is actually people putting money on the line, right? This isn't taking a poll. It's not asking people. We know what that's worth basically from back in 2016, from Brexit, et cetera. I don't think they're that reliable. These kind of typical polls that they do. This is where people are putting money on the line. Look at Harris was way ahead most of the year. And then Trump is really, really pulling ahead. And so we've seen the market actually agree with that. So the Republican basket versus the Democrat basket has really, really zoomed. So this is confirming this, even though we look at some of these other polls. The Ipsos ABC poll has Trump slightly behind. We've got the YouGov shows Harris up, Emerson College up. So I don't know if it's super clear cut at this point, but the money markets, the markets that are betting on this are betting on Trump to win. So take that for what it's worth. And we're seeing in a higher for longer rate environment, which maybe we could be considering at this point because we're seeing a little tick up in inflation. Goods inflation's down, service inflation very, very sticky. The sticky index CPI is ticking up. So inflation is kind of lingering, right? So we see the QQQ versus the SPY starting to break out above this kind of trend line here, which I think you can draw. I think it's very valid. I love to draw trend lines on ratio charts. I think it can kind of give you an early indication of something happening. Look at this. If you drew this one here, we had a nice run up before an eventual collapse. But we had this pullback on Friday. So I think we're going to see more of this kind of chop this week. Jumps, pullbacks, as people jockey for position into incredible, impactful type events on various sectors, on interest rates, on all kinds of things. So big things happening. From Spot Gamma here, we're sitting right around this pivot point. So this doesn't help, right? So we're sitting between this kind of long gamma, short gamma sort of pivot point where this, if we stay under 5808 and really 5800, we could be looking at further follow through, and that's going to require some different kinds of option strategies versus staying above 5808 and 5810 really, where we kind of have the potential to kind of grind up a little bit into what is up higher is more of an accelerant. So we're going to grind, and then potentially zoom higher into that 6,000 level if we get the right situation, the right data, and the right results over the next week that push us in that direction, right? So a lot of the time with this gamma stuff, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, it does have an impact on a resting market, but sometimes you need that initial spark. What is it that gets momentum going? And then gamma can kind of take over potentially to exacerbate those kinds of moves. This is very interesting here. So I've been saying, tech kind of looks interesting again because guess what? Hedge funds have really de-risked in this area. Look at prime book percentage of total US net exposure to Magnificent Seven, way down. What this means is if this starts to gather momentum, there is a lot of room to the upside for the flows. Remember, markets are about money flows, not just fundamentals and numbers and all and profits and all that. They're about where are people positioned? Are they missing out? Well, they could feel like they're really missing out if this trade starts to go again. That's why I'm long some Nvidia calls. I'm long some Meta. I'm thinking of putting on some Microsoft. I'm positioning for that upside because if things get going again, a lot of people have to get back in. Look at this different here, long short ratio, very, very pronounced here. So on the Mag 7. So we are looking at a potential move higher if that's the direction that things want to go in. There could be an acceleration to that. So lots of earnings this week. Some real favorites, SoFi, which we've done really, really well on lately. McDonald's, that'll be interesting. We had the E. coli disaster, Waste Management. Later on in the week, we've got Uber, my favorite. We've got Amazon, that's really huge. A couple little ones. My son loves Fubo. He loves the football, so that'll be kind of interesting tangentially to some of the streamers and the companies that do that sort of thing. Robinhood, very, very interested there. They announced that you can bet on Harris Trump to win the election. So they're taking on betting markets. These guys are just going to get stronger and stronger. They're very, very smart. They know where they need to focus versus some of these old fuddy-duddy companies that have no clue. They're living in the past when it comes to money management. Look out for Robinhood to continue to do really amazing things. Wayfair, piece of junk, but you know what? It can go. Some of those things, those overstocks, things like that can really get going. Alphabet, of course, this is huge. Everything gets going tomorrow with PayPal, Alphabet. We've got some oil. We've got Visa, one of my favorites, Cash Rich. I mean, this is my favorite, maybe top 3 stocks in the whole stock market. Crocs, we'll see if how they're doing. Very, very kind of bifurcated market. We saw Deckers do well. They do Uggs, etc. So tons of stuff happening this week. So let's be ready for it and have a great week, guys. And we'll see you in the next update.